Hi y'all, me again here. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Teresa's Crafty Cabana. Today I'm doing a little bit of a mix-up of some techniques I've been working on recently. And I guess the basis of it is going to be these magazine cutouts or pages as my textures. I'm not the best at magazine transfers, so I figured I'd try a little variety of things here. I've read a lot about it and I've tried it in the past, but I just wanted to do, if you know me, I like experimenting and just trying different things. Even if someone found the perfect way, I'll probably still experiment and try to see if I have a different way. And sometimes I come right back to exactly what someone said it should be. So I can't even remember at this point all of the things I've learned about transferring magazine pages. The biggest thing I think I remember is that you want to have a dark color, like a black, and your magazine pages need to have kind of like contrasting black and white images or light images and dark images. But I never have the best success from one page to the next, even if they're identical. So I don't know, maybe it's just me. But this was my cheapest paint, so it was just $1 paint, maybe even less, craft paint. And I pulled up the magazine and you can't really see it. There was an impression there, but it was really hard to see. So my thought is on the cheap craft paints, the cheap black, just avoid those. Unless you don't want much of a design left behind. It did leave it behind, but it was so faint, it was really hard to see. I was using a satin black. So this tissue paper, because I really didn't know how well my prints were going to turn out, I just ended up using my Dollar Tree tissue paper. That way I could experiment with this before I really, used my better paper or my better tissue paper, the wet strength. Then I could learn a few things and then pull my final print with the better paper. So this is just some paints that I already had out on my craft desk. These are mostly Amsterdam, but there's like a magenta in there, a warm gray, and a white in the bottom. But you can see there is a little bit of a transfer. Next I'm going to go in with the golden carbon black color. It's a fluid acrylic, and this is a nice dark black, but for whatever reason, it kept brayering up as I was going, so I don't know if it was just too little. Maybe I needed a little bit more, but it wasn't sticking to the plate very good. So I did try another just full print, and I'm just testing out different designs, seeing if anything works or doesn't work while I'm kind of pulling pages out of this magazine that I have. And sometimes I come across something and I think there's no way this isn't going to work, and it will. And then other times I think, oh wow, this is going to be so awesome, and nothing happens. So it's just, for me, every single time I do magazine transfers, I just never know what to expect. So this was one of those examples of, wow, I thought there would have been some contrast in there. So I don't know at this point, was it my paint? Was it the type of magazine? The contrast in the image? No idea. So I just went ahead and pulled this print. I put some blues and yellows down and then kind of created a green in the middle there. Just went ahead and pulled this print up and thought, well, maybe I can at least see what it looks like when I pull it. I just pulled it right next to the previous print. This tissue paper, it's tough because you don't want to let your print dry too much or else it'll tear the tissue paper, but you also don't want to pull it too early or else it won't pull everything up. So I usually rub it in pretty good, put a fan on, walk away for about 2 minutes, and once it doesn't feel cold anymore, then I'll pull up the print. So here are my first two. Not exactly the best transfers here, but it's a warm-up, so I'm going to keep going. This last black that I'm going to try is Mars Black by Royal Langnickel, and it's a very nice, kind of a medium based acrylic, and it definitely covers the plate really nice. So what I kind of started figuring out as I was doing more and more of these prints is you want to have a thin enough layer, but you also want to have it kind of wet enough that it can still remove some of the image. So here I had torn apart some of these pages just to give a little bit of more interest in the middle there. And I'm just going to kind of brayer them out lightly. I am pressing down hard enough to pull up the paint in that opening there. And then I'll just pull it right off. And then on this one, you can see, you can read the text. There's a picture of a person, and look at that. I didn't think that this was going to transfer because it was light colors, but it did. So I got these nice windows that showed through. So I just went ahead and put some color behind it and pulled this print up. So like I said, I think I learned something, and then I go to do the same thing with a different page and nothing. So I think on the golden fluid, it's the paint. I didn't try it again, but I'm probably gonna just not use that one. The craft one, it was just too light. It did transfer, but it wasn't impressive enough for me. So the rest of my prints are all going to be with this Mars Black, because that's where I actually got a pretty decent transfer of my magazine page. And that turned out really nice. I like the colors on it, and it looks interesting. So next up, what I did is I took the rest of my pages that I had kind of pulled out of my magazine, and I started tearing, getting some rough edges, just little pieces here and there that I thought maybe would make some kind of a good transfer. And then I'll just take all of my pieces and kind of set them off to the side, so as I'm printing, I can kind of just pick from it and kind of make like a little collage on my gel print. I'm also still trying to figure out exactly how much black paint I will need and how dry to brayer it off. So this is decently dry. And I'm just going to start layering down all the little pieces that I want to put on here. And then once I've got those down, I can just take my brayer and just kind of do the same thing I did the last time. I stopped because that was still wet, that brayer, and then I pulled this other brayer out just in case I wanted to use the back sides of any of these. I'm still trying to figure out the timing here, so I left this one on just a little bit longer. And then I pulled these off. Absolutely nothing. And then the one that I thought would give me nothing showed something. And then the top, not much. Tiny bit of words at the top that you can't really read. I do let that layer dry, and then I just went ahead and put some colors behind it. This time I put a texture into this next layer. So I've got these fake flowers. So this is a technique I had tried pretty recently between real flowers and fake flowers. I'll link the video. I really like the texture of the fake flowers. They have almost like a pop art kind of quality to them when you print with them. So I went ahead and just took out those flowers that I had printed with and added those to this background layer. Then these are the plastic leaves. And then I just went ahead and let this layer dry. And now I'm going to come in with two metallics. I've got Craft Gold and Craft Silver. It's a light gold and just a regular silver. This is still my Dollar Tree tissue paper cut down. So once that feels dry enough, I can come in and pull that up. And actually, I really like how this print turned out. It had some nice color with the silvers and the gold in the background. And it had like a gate look to it. So it had a transfer. I wasn't disappointed with the print. It just didn't, again, not every single piece of magazine page is pulling up. And this is all from the same magazine. So, and some of them, like I said, they look like if they're black and white, it's text. It should transfer, and then for whatever reason it doesn't. Other times I have these very colorful prints that look like there's nothing going to transfer, then those do end up transferring. So I don't know if you know the magic sauce to doing these transfers, let me know. But in the meantime, I will just experiment and figure out what does and doesn't work. So this one, same thing. I just kind of laid down my pages that I had cut down, and this one happened to have a few more of the images transferring, so I was pretty happy with that. But then this last one had nothing, so I decided to put some black just in that area, use my 2-inch sprayer, and just see if I can get another piece of magazine print to pull up in this area over here. I've got this palm tree, so I'm going to try that. Don't think it will work because it seems like it's kind of monotone. There's not a lot of contrast on it. And I think I didn't brayer this out thin enough. So that kind of removed a layer of the paint. So I just went ahead and pulled another piece and just layered that right on top. And this one transferred beautifully. Again, I didn't think this was going to do anything, so I really didn't even try hard on what design I picked. And that was the one that ended up transferring pretty nice. I tell you, this technique is always one that gets me, and I just never know what to expect. So here's another one where I really like the blue and the white. It seemed like a lot of contrast. So I tried in this little area over here to pull that design. It did not work. So I thought, well, let me go over it again. And here's another area that is kind of like a vase. So I just pulled it again. I did the exact same paint, and now all of a sudden it worked. I think I kind of enjoy it though, because it is something that kind of keeps me on my toes, never knowing what's going to work and what isn't. And I think eventually if I try this technique enough, I may come up with, a little bit more technique that actually I can repeat. To me, if I can't repeat it, it feels like I did it by mistake. So if I got a really beautiful print, but I only did it one time, it doesn't feel like it's something that I can teach someone unless I can do it again or several times or in several different kind of forms. So this is one of those techniques that I definitely like playing around with, and I enjoy the kind of unknown as far as the results go. So this is a layer in the background here that I'm going to do the pearl violet instead of like the silver or gold, but I really do like having that pop of some kind of a metallic. It really brightens up these prints. And this one turns out really nice. I do like that I can read Magic Garden. I can see the textures in there. So I think that one, I'm happy with that one. Especially, I did a couple of passes and it ended up working out okay. So that was another nice thing to figure out with these magazine transfers, is that you can kind of go over a spot that you don't love and try it again as many times as you need to until you're happy with it. So here's another layering of some different areas of my magazine pages. Kind of no real rhyme or reason. I do try to put some words in and then some pictures. This one seemed to pull up nicely where the picture is. This one did okay, but there was a lot of kind of like black spot. Maybe the paint was too wet. So I just took another area of my vase that I had pulled earlier and I just pulled that up over there. There's another dark spot here, so I used another part of that vase to get the design, but it ended up removing it. This was text that I thought was going to do great because it was black and white. It didn't pull up very nice. So I've got some spaces here that I'll kind of fill in with the black and do the same thing where I'll try another piece. I've got this cool chandelier. I didn't really show it, but it had like circles, a lot of circles to create a chandelier. It looked like a lot of black and white contrast on that one, although the lines were really thin. And then down here I just had a chair and like a table setting, but both of them ended up pulling up a nice transfer. So I did let that dry. And then I just brought in some golden fluid acrylics this time. I definitely put too much paint down, so I'm just kind of smearing the colors and then I'll brayer them out. I'm using a larger brayer after I kind of smeared the colors together with my smaller brayer, and then it kind of makes a nice thin layer here. My hands were already getting pretty inky at this point, or painty, so I just pressed them down with my hand. Then I let that dry, and for my next layer, I thought it would be kind of nice to put a stencil down and then do some pearl powders through the stencil over the top of the design that was already on the gel plate. So I liked the colors that were already down there, so I kind of used those to pull off of and pulled out pearl colors that sort of would go well with the background. So here's where an interesting thing happened. The paint that was on the gel plate actually pulled up onto my stencil. So the gel plate was actually showing. That was unexpected because I thought I let that layer dry, but I guess because golden paints are kind of sticky, it must have just stuck to that Yupo stencil. Which was fine though, because I got this really nice, really crisp design. And so I went in with pretty close to the same colors that I had pulled in originally. Just this time I used turquoise, yellow, and a green, and then some of the Titan buff just to make it a little bit brighter. This time I used the wet tissue paper, wet strength tissue paper. This is the nicer tissue paper that my friend Kim gifted me. because I figured this one was going to look good. There were a lot of layers to this. And it didn't disappoint. This one definitely turned out really cool. It had a lot of design kind of layers to it. So you had the magazine layer, then you had the colors of the golden fluids, you got the pearl powders, and then the golden fluids again. So definitely a lot of fun things happening on that print. Now I did go ahead and brayer out an ombre of this nice kind of like pink over to orange and yellow colors, and I wanted to put the stencil down again, but this time that for those first two prints that I did that had basically not much of a design to them, I decided I'd mix them up a little bit just by adding some of this color onto the blue and yellow print. I just pressed in firmly into each of those openings just to transfer that paint over. And that made for a much more interesting print since the magazine transfer didn't really turn out on that one. Then I just removed the stencil and took what was left on the gel plate, and I went ahead and transferred that onto the other print that I had done that had a little bit of a transfer on it, but it really wasn't much and you couldn't really see it, so I thought this would actually give it some kind of a design. And it did not disappoint. This was a pretty nice design to have on top of the print that didn't really turn out in the beginning for both of these actually. So I was really happy with the colors on these and just the fact that they look a little more finished. My brayer off sheet looked really cool too, so I just wanted to show that. It had all this great contrasting colors showing up here, so I'll definitely be using that maybe as an envelope, who knows. But here are the completed prints. I cut them down and just wanted to show kind of like especially the ones that have the different layers in them and the ones that have like the metallic shine in the background, just so you can see how those turned out. This one looks pretty neat. I wasn't sure how the gold and silver would go mixed together, and I really like how that turned out. It almost looks like a snowy scene with a pink sky. I don't know. It looks fun. And then this one, I like how the yellow, it actually has a little bit of the pearl. You can't really see it in the camera, but in real life, some of that pearl powder was still on the plate and it picked up a little bit of that. So I thought that was nice. And then this one, just nice bold color. And of course the transfer, I think this was the best transfer of all of them that looked like you could actually see what it was, and it pulled up the first time. And then this one, which was kind of a mashup of all of the techniques and different techniques I'd been working on recently, and I really loved how this one turned out. I think this one's probably my favorite just because I really had fun putting on the different layers and seeing how the magazine textures work together and how the pearl powders kind of made it just so bright and shiny. So that one definitely to me has so much interest to it. And then out of all of the prints, I just wanted to find out from you, which print did you like the most? And are you a fan of doing the magazine transfers, or are those something you don't really mess with much? I'm kind of a in-between. I don't do it all the time, but I don't hate it. I just find it's hard to repeat and hard to get consistent results. So I only play with it when I don't have any expectations. but I'd love to hear from you. Which one would you pick? I think for me, I think I already said is number 6, and then followed by number 4, because I really like that it says Magic Garden and you could actually read it. And I also like the colors behind that one. It's the pearl metallic. So that's it for my video for today, and thank you for being here and thank you for watching, and as always, happy crafting, y'all.